Right?
Yeah, I understand.
Okay,
already.
so on page 143, continuing on chapter 15, we got through page 141, chapter 14, last time we were together 2 weeks ago. All right, this is a very important part. This is a very important chapter. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
I and my disciples attaining Buddhahood through steadfast faith at the crucial moment. What's the crucial moment?
The last moment.
When trouble comes. Yes, of course, that would be the most crucial moment, because that's really the point of entering the birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood and sustaining yourself faith to the last moment of your life. But you're going to run into the crucial moment over and over and over again. Okay, the crucial moment is not something that's the crucial moment and end of crucial moments. It doesn't begin and end as a crucial moment. The crucial moment is any moment, any given moment. Okay, any given moment is the crucial moment when one is challenged as to their faith. That is the crucial moment. When he talks about what's crucial about that moment is crucial because the devil of the sixth heaven is in full-blown, full-force, military garb, declared war, trying to sway you. Okay? That's why it requires steadfast faith. Do you understand? This is never giving up. This is mugiwashi, right? Everybody's with me, right? Okay. Although from the Gosho, the opening of the eyes lecture by Daisaku Ikeda, page 143, from the Gosho itself, although I and my disciples may encounter various difficulties, if we do not harbor doubts in our hearts, we will as a matter of course attain Buddhahood. So what does he say there? What in the first sentence of that is he saying? He's saying that doubt-free faith is a necessity to attain Buddhahood.
Right.
Okay? He's saying you cannot attain Buddhahood otherwise.
Right.
He's saying if you maintain doubt-free faith, it will happen as a matter of course. You don't even have to do anything different or unique or overwhelming. He says, although I and my disciples may encounter various difficulties, if we do not harbor doubts in our hearts, we will as a matter of course attain Buddhahood. Do not have doubts, because he's saying in order to attain Buddhahood, you can't have doubts, right? So he's saying do not have doubts simply because heaven does not lend you protection. Okay? Do not be discouraged because you do not enjoy an easy and secure existence in this life. This is what I have taught my disciples morning and evening, and yet they begin to harbor doubts and abandon their faith. Foolish men are likely to forget the promises they have made when the crucial moment comes. Now, what is that referring to, actually?
People that have not attained Buddhahood.
Pardon?
People that are not.
Yeah, but it says, for foolish men are likely to forget the promises they have made when the crucial moment comes.
You lose your guard. You don't.
What is, again, when we're talking about faith, harboring doubt, okay? We would have had to have had some sort of faith to initiate the process, right? Okay? Now this is talking about and what, does the devil of the sixth heaven arise in your life prior to that point? No.
No.
Devil of the sixth heaven's job has to do with stopping Buddhahood. Okay?
Yes.
If you're not doing anything to go towards Buddhahood, the devil of the sixth heaven is never given rise to, is never activated, if you will, right? So what he's saying here in the second paragraph is, foolish men are likely to forget the promises they have made when the crucial moment comes. Okay? It's talking about the vow of the Bodhisattva of the earth. Foolish men will abandon their faith, which is the same thing as forgetting their vow. Forgetting the promise is the same thing as abandoning faith. Do you understand?
Yes.
It's giving in to the devil of the sixth heaven and allowing the devil of the sixth heaven to win. This is what it's talking about. Foolish men are likely to forget the vow they have made when the crucial moment comes. Some of them will feel pity for their wives and children and grieve at the thought of parting from them in this life. In countless births, throughout many long kalpas, they have had wives and children, but parted from them in every existence. They have done so unwillingly and not because of their desire to pursue the way of the Buddha. In other words, what's he referring to there? To clarify this. Okay, don't forget that generally speaking, the tradition of Buddhism was that when men, not women, because women couldn't attain enlightenment, but when men had already gotten their families out the door at around 50, they would go and they would start to pursue monastic life. Okay, they would be lay priests, if you will, if they were going to pursue this. And so he's saying, in countless births, they've always been parted from their wives and children in every existence. But what was the reason for that? It was because of death. It wasn't because they had actually done so for the sake of Buddhahood. Do you understand? That's what he's qualifying for. He's saying that's the difference. Since they must part with them, in any case, they should remain faithful to their belief in the Lotus Sutra and make their way to Eagle Peak. What's make their way to Eagle Peak? Attain Buddhahood in their present form. He says, so that they may lead their wives and children there as well. Why? Because if they attain Buddhahood, it's the same attainment for parents. And as I've already explained to you, you are the Buddha. You carry a crew. You know, it's by virtue of their relationship with you that they have a connection with the law until they initiate their own. You have chosen them to be with you. That's why they manifest around you. Do you understand? You manifest for the express purpose of spreading the law. Do you understand? All right, so everybody, I don't have to reread that. That's a very famous passage. He says, President Ikeda's lecture goes on and says on page 143, second column, difficulties make us stronger. Great hardships strengthen our faith. How so?
Each time you overcome the
because we win.
We
we encounter these great hardships, but we ultimately are victorious.
Yes.
That's why our faith is strengthened. Okay? If we keep challenging obstacles and forging strong, invincible conviction, we can bring forth the state of Buddhahood in our lives. What's that mean then? Through doubt, through faith, we can achieve actual Ichinen Sanzen. That's what he just said, right?
Yes.
We can be the Buddha.
Right.
All right? Those who, with the heart of a lion king, now when you have the heart of a lion king, what does that say?
Doubt-free faith.
Doubt-free faith. Continue struggling valiantly even when assailed by monumental challenges will definitely attain Buddhahood. That is the attainment of Buddhahood in one's present form. Do you understand?
Yes.
The essence of Nichiren Buddhism is that faith leads directly to enlightenment. It's not faith leads to some transformative process of you becoming perfect or wiser, smarter, or more capable.
Right.
You manifest the innate state that is there regardless of whether you're of superior, middling, or inferior capacity. Do you understand? So, and those are all issues of mission, not issues of quality or qualification. A bodhisattva of inferior capacity is identical to a bodhisattva of the earth of superior capacity. That's what I'm saying. The inferior, superior, middling has nothing to do with a qualitative quantification. Do you understand? The kind of faith here is a deep confidence in the existence of the Buddha nature in our own lives and those of others. So what did he just say there? The kind of faith here indicated here is a deep confidence in the existence of the Buddha nature in our own lives and those of others.
Yeah.
The kind of faith here is the mugiwashin of the doctrine of the Buddhism of the sowing. Okay, doubt-free faith in the teaching of Nichiren that Buddhahood already exists in our lives and already exists in the lives of others. So what he's saying, the kind of faith indicated here is a deep confidence in the existence. That's actual Ichinen Sanzen. If you have that deep confidence in your own Buddhahood and Buddhahood and everybody else, that's called actual Ichinen Sanzen. Okay, that is the 6th stage of practice. that understanding, that deep confidence in your own Buddha nature. Do you understand? He just said it clearly. All right. This is extremely important because in the absence of that, you're not going to get there. At the same time, and equally crucial, it refers to steadfast faith that remains unwavering no matter what happens, and strong faith that will not be defeated by devilish functions. So you understand? It's not just that realization. It's the actualization of that realization in the action of perseverance under any other adversity. Do you understand? Never giving in to the devilish function of the devil of the sixth heaven. You understand? Yeah. All right. Steadfast means without abatement. Whether we can attain Buddhahood hinges on the strength of our faith. Because whether we can attain Buddhahood hinges on our capacity to sustain under the onslaught of persecution that occurs as the natural pursuit, part of the natural pursuit of attaining Buddhahood in your present form, right? Everybody's with me?
Yes.
All right. The opening of the eyes contains the following famous passage which explains the profound principle that faith leads directly to enlightenment. Although I and my disciples may encounter various difficulties, if we do not harbor doubts in our hearts, we will as a matter of course attain Buddhahood. Do not have doubts simply because heaven does not lend you protection. Do not be discouraged because you do not enjoy an easy and secure existence in this life. This is what I have taught my disciples morning and evening, and yet they begin to harbor doubts and abandon their faith. Foolish men are likely to forget the promises they have made when the crucial moment comes. It's from page 283. No matter what painful trials, no matter what, note that, no matter what painful trials we encounter, we must not harbor doubts in our hearts. Nor should we be discouraged or succumb to complaint if we don't enjoy the protection of the heavenly deities or an easy and secure existence in this life. Those who maintain faith with such a non-regressing spirit, you get it? Right? Do you remember we already talked about this? Non-regressing, just all it means is we don't go backwards. Non-regressing spirit are true winners. This is one of Nichiren's most important points of guidance. Non-regression, non-regression, non-regression. Illuminating the very heart of faith, it is an eternal guideline. You with me? Yeah. All right. In this chapter, we will focus mainly on the above passage and discuss the true essence of faith in Nichiren Buddhism. Cool. The heart of the mentor-disciple relationship. At the beginning of this passage, the Daishonin addresses himself and his followers, I and my disciples. Just like he does throughout the OTT, right? As we have seen so far in the opening of the eyes, the Daishonin indicates that he is, 1, the true votary of the Lotus Sutra who battles the fundamental evil of slander of the law, and 2, he's the pillar of Japan who forestalls the loss of the correct teaching and the ruin of the nation, and 3, he's the Buddha of the latter day who illuminates the darkness of the age long into the distant future by revealing the supreme law for the enlightenment of all people. That's real clear, right? All right. Ready to brave all consequences, he declares his resolve. He says, this I will state, let the gods forsake me, let all persecutions assail me. Still I will give my life for the sake of the law. Then, with an indomitable lion's roar, he makes the powerful pledge, I will be the pillar of Japan, I will be the eyes of Japan, I will be the great ship of Japan. This is my vow and I will never forsake it. Here he reveals the core of his own spirit. While these passages constitute declarations of his personal resolve and commitment, the intent of the passage, I and my disciples, is to clearly underscore the importance of having faith that responds to the spirit of the mentor, the Daishonin. Okay? It is as if he were saying, follow my example. Cast off your doubts and laments as befits the cubs of the Lion King. Be I and my disciples. Be a disciple of me. You can say you are, but unless you're willing to go this, you're not. Let me clarify that to you so you're not mistaken. It's not just simply reciting the Daimoku. Okay? It's the attainment of Buddhahood in your present form. All right? Don't foolishly discard your faith at the crucial moment. The Daishonin indicates that his true disciples, so he differentiates that there are people that think there are his disciples and those that are in actuality his disciples. And what is that thing that determines that, according to him just now? Faith. Faith in his teaching. What does that mean? That means that even when it doesn't seem that it's occurring in this moment, we continue anyhow with the resolve to give it the opportunity to present itself in the next. Do you understand? That's why we don't regress. As long as we don't regress, we always advance because we always win. It's impossible not to. The Daishonin indicates that his true disciples are those who, sharing his resolve, that fifth stage of practice, stand up to struggle alongside him and work energetically for Kosen Rufu, for making everyone equal to themselves. All who become genuine disciples of Nichiren, notice how he puts in parentheses there, President Ikeda, in this lecture, all who become genuine disciples of Nichiren, by making his spirit, and he says, by the way, if you want to know what that genuine disciples, go back to the true aspect of all phenomena, where he says those who are of the same mind as Nichiren. Okay, that's where that comes from. That's why I always refer to it as that being the fifth stage. By making his spirit and commitment their own, no matter who they are. No matter who they are. So that doesn't mean they have to be rocket scientists. They don't have to have superior capacity. They don't have to have intermediate capacity. They could have inferior capacity, regardless of who they are. No matter who they are, have in fact already opened wide the path to attaining Buddhahood themselves through their own efforts. It's only their efforts that can open that path wide open to themselves. And as long as they follow this path to the end, they will attain Buddhahood. Pretty simple, right? Pretty straightforward, and it all makes sense. It's logical, correct? As a matter of course. They will all attain Buddhahood as a matter of course. The ultimate teaching expounded by all Buddhas reveals that all living beings possess the life state of Buddhahood. The Lotus Sutra also clearly states that Buddhas fulfill the purpose of their appearance in the world by opening for all living beings the door to the Buddha wisdom lying dormant in their lives, showing it to them, causing them to awaken to it, and guiding them to enter its path. In other words, enabling all to attain enlightenment. Now, I've said that to you and never been able to remember all four. I say it all the time. I'm going to reread it again so that I don't have to look it up. These are the four things that we do as human beings who have revealed the 10th world in our 9-world existence, become Buddhas in our present forms. We come to this Sahe world in order to do that for one reason only, which consists of four things, the four great reasons, okay? And it is the ultimate teaching expounded by all Buddhas, that includes us, reveals that all living beings possess the life state of Buddhahood. We're all Buddhas exactly as we are, right? This is the second paragraph of page 145 in the first column. The Lotus Sutra also clearly states that Buddhas fulfill the purpose of their appearance. Okay, so if you're a bodhisattva of the earth, your real intent is to attain Buddhahood in your present form, right? Yes. That's the function of a bodhisattva of the earth. He appears as a bodhisattva of the earth as the initial stage of practitioner and ultimately achieves the state of actual Ichinen Sanzen, right? So that means you're a Buddha, right? Yes. Okay, then the purpose of you coming to this earth and becoming a Buddha then is that, and he says, the Lotus Sutra clearly states that Buddhas, which that's what you would be, fulfill the purpose of their appearance in the world by achieving actual Ichinen Sanzen, their own Buddhahood in their present form, and through that process, opening for all living beings the door to Buddha wisdom lying dormant in their lives, showing it to them because you're living it,
example, yes.
Causing them to awaken to it because your life is an inspiration and an actualization of that they can see, all right? and guiding them because you are the mentor. Guiding them to enter his path. Pretty clear stuff, right?
Yes.
No different than Nichiren. All right? In other words, enabling all to attain enlightenment. As you, the Buddha, being able to attain all, help all to attain enlightenment. The essence of this ultimate teaching of the Buddhas, plural, is to help everyone actualize the same great enlightenment that they have achieved. The purpose of all Buddha's advent is to make everyone equal to themselves, to Buddhahood. All right? That is why Buddhism is at all times concerned with raising disciples that will exert themselves in faith and practice with the same spirit as the mentor. That means all disciples must become mentors, right? Because no mentor lasts forever, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Buddhism is none other than a philosophy of mentor and disciple. Plain and simple, period. That's it. That's the truth. All right? And in the spirit of this philosophy of mentor and disciple truly comes to life only when the disciples' hearts blaze with the same bright spiritual flame evinced by Nichiren, who proclaimed, "Let the gods forsake me, let all persecutions assail me, still I will give my life for the sake of the law." Okay? That's the underlying motivation that's always bubbling at the core of every bodhisattva of the earth. Do you understand? All right, so in that sense, the Daishonen's focus on I and my disciples in this passage can also be read as a call for the emergence of ranks of capable successors who will continue his struggle. Or it could be said, I and my disciples in this passage can also be read as a call for the emergence of ranks of Buddhas capable of propagating the Buddhism of the sowing as disciples of their original teacher. Do you understand? It's the exact same thing, exact same thing. All right? Selfless dedication, page 145. Selfless dedication is the essence of the mentor-disciple bond. What's selfless dedication? It means you put nothing ahead of Buddhism. Doesn't mean you don't have anything else in your life at all. Okay? You can still have plenty of sex and still have selfless dedication and the essence of the mentor. Yes. It has no bearing on any life function. It's what your priorities are. Okay? Now, if you'd rather do sex than attain Buddhahood, then that's an issue. But Buddhahood contains everything. Okay? So there's no action that precludes Buddhahood other than the absence of faith. Do you understand? Okay, so every time I read this passage, the expression I and my disciples stands out vividly with a golden brilliance. Often, religious leaders address or direct their followers in a unilateral manner, uttering only my disciples. But Nichiren says, I and my disciples. Including himself in his instructions to his disciples exemplifies an attitude imbued with the Buddhist spirit of the unity, the equality of mentor and disciple, not the hierarchical value of higher and lesser,
Right.
more experienced and not, they're equal. One can't be one without the other. The mentor can never be the mentor without the disciple. The disciple cannot become the disciple, cannot be the disciple without the mentor. And the backbone of this relationship is the spirit of not begrudging one's life. They're both dedicated to the same thing. Do you understand? That's why the disciple listens to the mentor, and that's why the mentor teaches the disciple, because they both have devotion to the same objective. Do you understand? Not begrudging one's life, or unselfish dedication. Because the mentor, Nichiren Daishonin, does not begrudge his own life in propagating the law, he is qualified to be a leader of the people who opens the path of Buddhism to all. Similarly, in order for his disciples to spread the law in their capacity as disciples, they must actively struggle for that cause with the same selfless dedication as the mentor. Okay? You got it? They don't take vacations. They don't go into some other la-la land. Daily, every day, They're in front of the Gohonzon chanting Daimoku. By the way, again, none of this happens from knowing all this shit I'm telling you and reading you. This only comes from Daimoku to the Gohonzon. Don't forget that. You cannot get there just by reading this stuff or having a little better, deeper understanding of the philosophy. You have to chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo or the Gohonzon to get to the place he's talking about here. You don't deserve it otherwise. Therefore, you will not achieve it. Trust me, you won't be able to. You didn't do what you were supposed to be able to get there. He's already said it a million times. I reinforce it to you now. With the same selfless dedication as the mentor. That means chanting Daimoku to the Gohonzon. That means the practice of faith, not just the belief of faith. You understand? Nichiren teaches this in the following passage. Some of them feel pity for their wives and children and grieve at the thought of parting from them in this life. In countless births, throughout many long kalpas, they have had wives and children, but parted from them in every single one of those existences. But they have done so unwillingly, because nobody wants to, when you're not awake, when you're unawakened, you fear death, right? You don't know what's on the other side. You don't have that confidence that faith brings you. You're not the Buddha, right? You don't have that wisdom. Unwillingly, and not because of their desire to pursue the way of the Buddha. Since they must part with them, in any case, they should remain faithful in their belief in the Lotus Sutra and make their way to Eagle Peak so that they may lead their wives and children there as well. The top of page 146. The Daishonin made this statement while undergoing life-threatening persecution. Looking at more recent times, during World War II, the Soka Kyoiku Gakkai, the Value-Creating Education Society, forerunner of the Soka Gakkai, suffered persecution at the hands of the Japanese militaristic authorities. The Soka Gakkai's top leaders were arrested and imprisoned. All of them, except Tanesaburo Makaguchi and Josei Toda, the first and second presidents, caved into the government pressure and turned their backs on the Daishonin's admonitions by abandoning their faith. Okay? Y'all understand that, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's exactly what he's talking about when he says, foolish men are likely to forget the promises they have made when the crucial moment comes. I guarantee you, in the course of his conversations as disciples of President Makaguchi, every one of those Soka Kuku Yokai, whatever, leaders, they all knew they weren't supposed to give up their faith. Okay? Why didn't Josei Toda give up his faith? Because he knew he wasn't supposed to give up his faith, because Makaguchi wouldn't give up his faith. All right? There was no actual disciples beyond Toda. Do you understand? They were mouth only. They were words only. They were foolish men that had forgotten their vow at the crucial moment. Do you understand? That's the determination he's wanting you to understand. Crucial moments come all the time. Perceiving a moment as a crucial moment. What do you do at the crucial moment? When a crucial moment comes, when any moment that can be defined as the crucial moment comes.
What do you do?
Yes, what do you do? Absolutely. The crucial moment is always Gohonzon. The crucial moment is always Daimoku. Now you may not have Gohonzon in front of you, so you may have to do Daimoku without the Gohonzon. But it's always Daimoku to the Gohonzon if you can, and if not Daimoku. All right, so he's saying the Soka Gakkai's top leaders were arrested and imprisoned. All of them except Tanesaburo Makaguchi and Josei Toda, the first and second presidents, caved into government pressure and turned their backs on the Daishonin's admonition by abandoning their faith. While in prison, Mr. Toda wrote in a letter to his family, "Do not doubt that the heavenly deities, the Buddhas, and the Buddhist gods will protect you. They will. Don't lament that you do not enjoy ease and security in this life." His words embody the essence of the opening of the eyes. How should we live our lives as human beings and Buddhists? Let us always remember that it is only through faith, through dedicating ourselves to the supreme law and striving for Buddhism with a selfless, ungrudging spirit, that we can truly forge our lives and establish the indestructible state of Buddhahood. Gaining Buddhahood without seeking it, at the second column, top of page 146. In the passage cited at the beginning, the Daishonin says that even if he says that Even if we face many difficulties, as long as we persevere undefeated and remain steadfast in our faith, then the benefit of attaining Buddhahood will naturally come to us of itself. This is termed gaining Buddhahood without seeking it. Why can we attain Buddhahood even if we do not seek it? First, it is because the lives of all living beings are inherently entities of Myoho Renge Kyo, the mystic law. And second, it is because our strong faith causes the limitless functions of Myoho Renge Kyo that reside within our lives to manifest without impediment. When Myoho Renge Kyo comes to function freely in our lives, we attain the life state of Buddhahood. The mystic law's infinite power then operates unhindered and expresses itself as various human powers or capacities. These include, for example, the courage to stand up alone, the strength to persevere, the wisdom to surmount adversity, and concern and compassion for others. Qualities such as these, described in the sutra as attributes of the Buddha's life, manifest in appropriate form as needed. To reiterate, attaining Buddhahood means being able to freely call forth the power of the mystic law from our lives in the form of various human powers or capacities. Being the Buddha, having the 10th world enter into the realm of our 9 world existences. I'll say it again. Qualities such as these, described in the sutra as attributes of the Buddha's life, manifest in appropriate form as needed, so you don't walk around like a sunbeam all the time shooting off lightning bolts out your ass. All right? As needed. To reiterate, attaining Buddhahood means being able to freely call forth, because you are at one with the universe, because of your faith in the mystic law, which is the entire universe. Do you understand? So you can call it freely and express the power of the mystic law from your own life in the form of various human powers or capabilities. Which means you're able to get done what you got to get done to win. Period. Yes?
Questions. That when you have doubt-free faith, and when you call for the Buddhas or whatsoever, things that actually happen, then you kind of freak out.
Yeah.
I do. And then when you freak out, do you call that's not having faith?
No.
Okay.
No. That's called
Then
the attainment, the process of attainment of Buddhahood in your present form. Those experiences are
'Cause you
necessary
could-
because
you
you
could-
know that they're real.
You could see it.
You know
and then-
they're real. Now,
yeah.
over time, you won't freak out because you'll just be going, you and me, bro. There's no separation between those influences and your life. They are not something that came in and bestowed upon something on you. You bestowed it upon yourself. That's what this whole goddamn thing is saying, right? It's not a freebie. It's not a gift. It's calling from our lives' powers, calling from our lives' capabilities, based on our doubt-free faith, not somebody else's. Right? So no, don't ever be freaked out. You think I don't freak out? Why do I cry? Is that out of like, of course it's gratitude, but if it isn't out of, it's also wonderment. I mean, when you think, yeah, everybody has that experience. Nobody gets so jaded that they go, I just made a big, bright thing shine across the sky and freaked out everybody. When he was saying, hey, come back and do your job. You think that he wasn't like filled with like a joy of like, did he expect that the light was going to come and stop them from executing it?
No, probably say, no, good, I didn't die.
No, he'd already said, I'm fully prepared. Don't you understand? This is what I've been waiting for my whole life, is to give my life for the sake of the law. Okay? So it's okay. Absolutely, it's not. Don't ever think that that's a lack of faith. When you see the result that you had faith you would get, and then it happens, and then you go, oh, and you get goosebumps and all that stuff. So that's called rejoicing. That's called joy. Okay? That's seeing the power of the law and responding with the wisdom to know that it's the law. That's not like, well, I wonder what really made that happen.
Too happy.
Do you understand? Now, if it's because you're like freaked out of joy or like out of a sense of like, wow, that's okay. But if you're like, it couldn't have been Gohanzan, that's a whole different thing. You're not talking about that.
No.
Right. So, again, it is important to be aware that what prevents the power of the mystic law from manifesting in our lives is actually the fundamental illusion or darkness that resides within us. In other words, it means a profound ignorance of the mystic law, which indicate a lack of faith, right?
Right.
Okay? This ignorance causes people to be lost, diluted, and ruled by negative impulses. I'm bummed out. A negative impulse could be also be considered that's negative life condition. You know, they're down. They're not energized. They're not optimistic. They don't see clearly. They only see defeat. They only feel fear. They only feel weakness. Do you understand? They're ripe for defeat. That's the recipe for defeat. That's why there's a recipe for victory and there's a recipe for defeat. That's what we're learning here. Okay? Living beings are living beings. How do you live your life is the difference.
Yeah.
Okay? Accordingly, we must be, when we become awakened, when we become awakened to the mystic law, what does that mean? Does that mean, accordingly, when we start chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo? No. When we become awakened to the mystic law, this delusion or darkness instantly vanishes. Awakened is Ichinen Sansen. Actual Ichinen Sansen. Excuse me, do you understand? He says it very cleverly here so he doesn't have to mince words or tell you, well, it's only after you've gotten across this line that it actually kicks to the point that I'm talking about it. This is to keep you from being confused. But he says, accordingly, when we become awakened to the mystic law, this delusion or darkness of the devil of the sixth heaven instantly vanishes. Do you understand? That's the attainment of Buddhahood. All right? The mystic law, then, is like the sun. How? You got it? Okay. Fundamental darkness is what he's talking about. Fundamental darkness is fundamental ignorance is the same thing as the devil of the sixth heaven, right? It's our absence of the perception of Buddhahood in our own life and in the lives of others. If we pursue it only in our own life, we don't perceive it correctly. If we perceive it only in the lives of others, we don't perceive it correctly. All right, so it's always us and others. All right. Accordingly, when we become awakened to the mystic law, this delusion or darkness instantly vanishes. The mystic law then is like the sun, while delusion is like the dark clouds obscuring it, keeping you from being able to see what's always there. When the dark clouds clear, bright sunshine streams down. When we break through fundamental darkness, the power of the mystic law is immediately activated and manifests as various kinds of benefit and value creative functions or protective influences. All those things that are on the Gohanzan. Okay? Those aspects of our own life are brought forth. Powers and capacities. That's what he's talking about over here at the bottom of page 146. Everybody's with me, right? You understand his explanation clearly. I hope, right? Yeah. All right. So he's saying such diverse benefit and value derived from the workings of the law of Renge or lotus, the entity of the mystic law, the principle of the simultaneity of cause and effect. Does everybody understand? Through faith, we change each moment. We change the aspect of effect from previous causes. Therefore, while it is true that all living beings are entities of the mystic law whose lives are inherently endowed with the state of Buddhahood, unless we strive in earnest to dispel the obstructing clouds of fundamental darkness that keep you from being able to perceive and experience that, the world of Buddhahood will not actually manifest in our lives. Now, I added some words there to make it clear. I'll go back and say it over again without adding any words, but that's what he was just saying. Therefore, while it is true that all living beings are entities of the mystic law whose lives are inherently endowed with the state of Buddhahood, all entities, everybody's a Buddha in theory, unless we strive in earnest to dispel the devil of the sixth heaven, the obstructing clouds of fundamental darkness, then the world of Buddhahood, our actual original state, will not actually manifest in our lives. it is not something we can hope to achieve if we are half-hearted, simply going through the motions of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Much less will it be achieved by having priests chant for us instead. Okay, do you understand what he just said here? Mm-hmm. Okay, he just said, it is not something we can hope to achieve if we are half-hearted, simply going through the motions of chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. So it's not just going through the motions of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo to the Gohonzon even. Do you understand? Mm-hmm. It is a process of advancement. Much less will it be achieved by having priests chant for us instead, which is what the used to be the thing with Nichiren Shoshu. Mm. It is, that's why, and also why no one can chant for you. Priests can't chant for you either. Priests can't chant for you for the same reason no one else can chant for you. I got news for you. It's not just about priests chanting for you. No one else can chant for you. If you don't chant, you're not doing this. This isn't about knowing shit. This is about bodhicitta. It's about action. This is about attaining Buddhahood in this lifetime, exactly as you are. Or else you can't be any of that. Open the door and cause them to awaken and all that stuff. You're not the Buddha. You're a wannabe. There's a difference. Okay. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right. Much less will it be achieved by having priests chant for us instead. It is up to each person who chants Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, to wage an individual struggle to dispel the darkness in his or her life. Because this darkness arises from our inner delusion, each individual's inner delusion, the struggle to defeat it must be waged within by each individual. This is the achievement of actual Ichinen Sanzen. In short, this struggle means persevering in faith, which means mugiwashi, right? Based on the Lotus Sutra, which reveals the Buddha's enlightenment, the Daishonin discovered the workings of the fundamental law of Myoho Renge Kyo in his own life. He, through his own struggles, he then went on to confirm and prove its power through his own struggles. For us to freely manifest the workings of the law in our own lives, we need to chant with the same mind and attitude as the Daishonin. In other words, our chanting of Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, the Daimoku, must be based on faith, the spirit to battle the devil of the sixth heaven, the spirit to battle fundamental darkness. The Daimoku that the Daishonin spread could be described as fighting Daimoku. This is the Daimoku of the Soka Gakkai. This is the difference between this Daimoku and the Daimoku of Nichiren Shoshu. Yes. Frankly speaking, this is the key. Yep. This is why that guy that was in prison, and what the hell did he do? Well, he went to prison and he didn't come out. And started a whole catalytic chain. That's what this is all about. The mystic law then is like, the fundamental darkness manifests in various forms as doubts, anxiety, earthly desires, and so on. The power to break through fundamental darkness is none other than faith or belief. The Daishonin says belief means to be without doubt. He also states the single word belief is the sharp sword with which one confronts and overcomes fundamental darkness or ignorance. Battling devilish functions and confronting the various difficulties of life must essentially be an intense struggle against our illusion. Okay? This is our battle. Each one of us does this one. We use the sharp sword in our life, I'm saying. Okay? You can only attain Buddhahood for yourself. We use the sharp sword of belief against devilish forces that obstruct Kosen Rufu. If we should lose our faith or belief in the mystic law, that is to say, if we lose the conviction that we can definitely become happy and attain Buddhahood, and if we lose the desire to accomplish Kosen Rufu without fail, then we will be also defeated by hardships, obstacles, and devilish functions on the path to Kosen Rufu. In the opening of the eyes, the Daishonin says we must not succumb to doubt and pessimism, both of which are manifestations of fundamental darkness. A clear illustration of faith conquering illusion is provided by the Nirvana Sutra's parable of the poor woman who gives up her life to protect her child, which Nichiren cites in this treatise. Does everybody know this story? Does everybody know this story? The parable of the woman from the Nirvana Sutra? You either know this story or you don't know this story. Does everybody know this story? I'm going to read it to you, but when I get done, before we go into it, I want you to see if this goes ka-ching. You understand what this actually is an expression of. Okay, because it's an expression of one of the Daishonin's key tenets to his teaching, even though it's not specifically stated as such by President Keita following. It's embellished more. But here's the story. The Nirvana Sutra states, she, the poor woman, has no house to live in and no one to aid or protect her. And in addition, she is beset by illness, hunger, and thirst. She wanders through various places begging for a living. While staying in an inn, she gives birth to a baby, but the master of the inn drives her away. Though the baby has just been born, she takes it up in her arms and sets out, hoping to journey to another land. But along the way, she encounters fierce wind and rain, and she is troubled by cold and bitten by mosquitoes, gadflies, hornets, and poisonous insects. Coming at length to the Ganges River, she clasps her child in her arms and begins to cross it. Although the current is very swift, she will not let go of the child, and in the end, both the mother and child are drowned. They perish. There's not like a happy ending, okay? But through the merit that the woman gained by her loving tenderness, she is reborn after her death in the Brahma heaven. Now, before I go on and read, well, I'll just read. The parable teaches that the poor woman could transform her state of life through her strong compassion and try to protect her child even at the cost of her own life. But there's a statement about the Daishonins in the Goshos that the Daishonin and President Keita refers to it all the time. That really qualifies what this is and qualifies this entire process of attainment of Buddhahood in your present form, because that's what he just gave this parable, saying that's what this lady did, right? She was born in the Brahma heaven after doing this, right? So what does that indicate the power of? The power of the heart. It's the heart that is important. The power of the heart is what generates the will, the strength, the everything to be this kind of person that can persevere in the face of these kinds of obstacles and be the Buddha in their present form.
She never give up the heart on
the heart.
Save
Yes. He's going to explain that. Okay, it's the heart that is important. It's what's really in the depth of the character of our life that is true, because everything else can be bullshit. You know, I could sit here and talk a good game here and never chant, and I don't. I do chant. I think you can see that. But I'm saying there are a lot of people that the merit of what they actually do and what they lead you to believe they do are two different realities. Okay? The heart is important. That means that you're doing the best you can do at all times. That's the stage of non-regression. Okay? So, going on, he says, to us today, the mother's predicament and the fate of her and her child may seem sad and tragic, especially since Buddhism exists to enable all mothers and children to become happy. Moreover, from our perspective as practitioners of the mystic law, attaining Buddhahood and establishing a state of absolute happiness are assured to us in this lifetime. And we're kind of like, what is this story about a woman drowning with her kid, right? In that sense, this Nirvana Sutra parable reflects several basic assumptions that differ from the perspective of Nichiren Buddhism. And they do. That's when I first read them, going like, what the hell is this about? Ends in a bummer. I mean, she didn't win. Okay? He says, why then does the Daishonin cite this tale in the opening of the eyes? Likely, it is because of the vital message contained in Shakyamuni's concluding remarks. Shakyamuni guides his disciples, telling them in effect that they must defend the correct teaching as resolutely and selflessly as this mother protected her child. That's where this parable comes from. It came as an example of how are you to protect the law. You're to protect the law just like the lady who drowned rather than letting, and no matter how much she was attacked, she never let go of her kid. No matter, even though the innkeeper kicked her out. Do you understand? She constantly, all she cared about was taking care of the baby. Do you understand? All right. Shakyamuni guides his disciples, telling them in effect that they must defend the correct teaching as resolutely and selflessly as the mother protected her child. The message that this is that the path to attaining Buddhahood lies in faith, committed to steadfastly protecting the law no matter what. Protecting the law no matter what. Even do not begrudge your life. Not begrudging your life. That's the whole reason they died. It was to show an example of nothing. Even to save herself, she wouldn't let go of the kid. Not begrudging your life. The message is that the path to attaining Buddhahood lies in faith, committed to steadfastly protecting the law no matter what. In other words, the selfless spirit of faith of not begrudging one's life and of caring nothing for one's own life taught in the Lotus Sutra. Now, are you prepared for that? I am. Okay? That's what it takes. You have to be prepared for that. That's what it will ultimately potentially take. That's what the Daishonin faced at Tatsunokuchi. That's what the Daishonin faced for the rest of his life until he finally gave way to the difficulty and adversity of his age and the environmental conditions that struck him down at 61 or 60, pardon me. So in terms of our practice, however, not begrudging or caring for one's life does not mean throwing away our lives. It means thoroughly dedicating our lives to the law. Do you understand? Am I dying right now? No. But I am thoroughly dedicating myself to the law. Do you understand? And whatever that brings on to me will not stop me from continuing to dedicate myself to the law. That's the point. Nothing can discourage or make me let the baby go. Do you understand? Gadflies, hornets, everything, no food, no nothing. I don't give a shit. I'm the Buddha. To the last moment of my life, I took a vow. I will never forsake it. That's what I care more about than anything. That's what I care more about than my family, my parents, more than anything. Because as long as that's my most important thing, everything else is covered. Everything else is covered within that. That's what he's trying to say. He's saying that countless lifetimes you had children and wives, and you never wanted to leave them, but you always did. If you'd have just attained Buddhahood, you will never leave them. They will appear every lifetime. You'll always be together. The jewel of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. And this is, I'm going to read through because we're done. In this writing, the Daishonin, everybody understands, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In this writing, the Daishonin succinctly describes the principle of attaining Buddhahood, conveyed through this parable of the poor woman as the jewel that is the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. Let's briefly go over the main points of the Daishonin's explanation in the opening of the eyes. He sums up the essential message of this parable as follows. In the end, it is nothing other than the loving kindness with which the woman cares for her child that makes the difference. It's the heart that is important. Her concern concentrates on one thing, just like the Buddhist practice of concentration. She thinks of nothing but her child, or for us, of nothing protecting the law, which is similar to Buddhist compassion. That must be why, although she created no other causes to bring it about, she was reborn in the Brahma heaven. Why is the poor woman reborn in the Brahma heaven without seeking it? Nichiren offers two explanations. First, it is because her concentrating on one thing is similar to the Buddhist practice of concentration, upholding the law. Second, it is because her thinking of nothing but her child is comparable to Buddhist compassion. Concentrating on one thing means focusing one's mind on a single objective. What would that be in regard to everything we're talking about here then? Kosen Rufu. The same mind as Nichiren is the mind for widespread propagation. Understand that always. It's not the mind for benefit or the mind for being a Buddha. That's already assumed. It's the mind for widespread propagation. That's why you've come back. Concentrating on one thing means focusing on one's mind on a single objective, the attainment of Buddhahood in your present form, which is the accomplishment of your part of Kosen Rufu. The ultimate expression of this is the practice of exhausting the pains and trials of millions of kalpas in a single moment of life. What is that? That's the attainment of actual Ichiren Sanzen.
Right.
Okay? As we've already discussed several times. Everybody's with me, right?
Yes.
When we practice with such concentrated effort, we can manifest the limitless life state of Buddha eternally endowed with the three bodies. That's called actual Ichiren Sanzen, right? When we practice with such concentrated effort, we can manifest actual Ichiren Sanzen, what he just said. The Daishonin says that the doctrines for attaining Buddhahood, expounded in various other sutras and schools, such as the flower garland doctrine of the phenomenal world as created by the mind alone, the 8 negations of the 3 treatises school, the consciousness only doctrine of the Dharma characteristics school, and the true word school's meditation on 5 elements of the universe, are not jewels. These are not jewels. These are merely yellow stones. Okay? And one cannot attain enlightenment by these means. He explains that the path to Buddhahood is only the Lotus Sutra's jewel, that is the doctrine of 3,000 realms of in a single moment of life. What is he saying? What is that called? What is that jewel called? The jewel that is the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life, what is that talking about? Actual Ichiren Sanzen. You know, every time I ask this question, you should know that that's the answer, because that's all I'm asking you to try and begin to really always understand. That's what he's always coming back to saying. But he doesn't say actual Ichiren Sanzen each time.
Yes.
Okay? All right. But that's what it is. Here, on one level, the jewel that is the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life may be taken to indicate the condition of the simultaneity of cause and effect that we can realize through our concentrated prayer, mind of faith, right? What's that? That's the moment that, again, we enter the realm of birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood forever. It is a condition in which the other 9 of the 10 worlds and the world of Buddhahood exist simultaneously in a single moment of life. It's when, again, it's not theoretical anymore. It's actual. You're with me? That Daishonin liken such a state to a jewel because it embodies the mutual possession of the 10 worlds and the 3,000 realms and shines with beautiful gem-like brilliance. It's Buddhahood. The essence of such a state of life is simply strong faith in the mystic law. Our concentrated prayer manifests as a jewel that contains Buddhahood. In some instances, the doctrines for attaining Buddhahood put forward by various other sutras and advanced by different schools are little more than simple ways of viewing the world and are limited to shallow self-affirmations. Might as well be doing Taoism. In other instances, they teach the importance of extinguishing delusions, but are similar to the Hinayana teachings of eradicating earthly desires by reducing the body to ashes and annihilating the consciousness. Going for, rather than the wisdom of Buddhahood, the extinguishing of your existence. In either case, although they may appear similar, these doctrines are completely different from the jewel that is the doctrine of 3,000 realms in a single moment of life. In either case, although they may appear similar, these doctrines are completely different from actual Ichiren Sanzen. Nichiren concludes his discussion of the parable by citing once more the Nirvana Sutra passage, although they do not seek emancipation, emancipation will come of itself. In other words, one naturally arrives at enlightenment even without seeking it, which goes back to his original quote from the very beginning here, as a matter of course we will attain Buddhahood, right? All right. Nichiren concludes this discussion of the parable by citing once more the Nirvana Sutra passage, although they do not seek emancipation, emancipation will come of itself. In other words, one naturally arrives at enlightenment even without seeking it. Never forget to challenge fundamental darkness at the crucial moment. In this on page 150, as the Daishonin indicates when he says, if we do not harbor doubts in our hearts, we will, as a matter of course, attain Buddhahood. We can only break through the darkness of doubt and pessimism and bring forth the power of the mystic law, Myoho Renge Kyo, in our lives through resolute faith. Fundamental darkness, however, is also stubbornly powerful and deep-rooted. At the precise moment we need to battle illusion, it creeps into our hearts and pervades our lives. The Daishonin admonishes against the folly of allowing this to happen, saying, foolish men are likely to forget the promises they have made when the crucial moment comes. Everybody's with me, right? Mm-hmm. To harbor doubt and disbelief and turn away from the correct teaching at the very time when we should arouse strong faith is foolish indeed. Pardon me. The Daishonin's words seem to ring with the impassioned cry, this is a chance to make great causes for attaining Buddhahood. Everlasting happiness lies on the other side of this momentous challenge. What is everlasting happiness? Birth and death in the realm of Buddhahood. Okay, you with me? Okay. No matter what happens, we must not give in to doubt. We must not be discouraged. Those who possess such a robust spirit will not fear anything. There have been many instances in the history of the Soka Gakkai when we have faced enormous obstacles, such as when President Makaguchi was imprisoned during the war, when President Toda's business enterprises fell into dire straits in the post-war period, and when we were attacked by the three powerful enemies embodied by the Nichiren Shoshu priesthood and others. Our true worth and mettle as disciples and practitioners of Nichiren Buddhism are revealed in what we do and how we act at such times. We absolutely must never forget that Buddhahood shines in the faith of those who fight steadfastly at the crucial moment. This is one of the most profound conclusions of the opening of the eyes.
Yes.
And so we start next week on page 151, chapter 16. Thank you.
Thank you.
What time?